Daily Wire doubles down on greed. It's been 24 hours since Jeremy Boring of the Daily Wire came out with his response video to the accusation made from StevenCrowder of Louder with Crowder. The main thrust of Jeremy's argument seemed to be the fact that it was the beginning of negotiations and it wasn't a solidified contract and it could be renegotiated, and the fact that it was really about money and not the clauses. Along with that, there have been many other excuses or arguments made against StevenCrowder. I'm going to go through a few of them and, in my opinion, debunk them. First, Jeremy's argument that this was the beginning of a negotiation. Things could be negotiated out through a counteroffer. This suggests that the censorship clauses, which were critiqued by StevenCrowder in his original video, were not hardline issues for Daily Wire. In fact, some people theorized that these clauses were specifically provided to StevenCrowder because of his controversial past and his content, which is quite spicy in nature. This take was quickly debunked that day by Jeremy's own words and by Candace Owens, who had appeared on Tim Pool's show. In secretly recorded audio of a conversation between StevenCrowder and Jeremy Boring, StevenCrowder asks, "Take me out of the equation. I'm talking about other content creators, maybe a content creator with 100K followers. Would they be subjected to these censorship clauses?" Jeremy responds, yes. Later that night, Candace, while talking about her own contract with Daily Wire, fact that she had negotiated a clause in her contract out. This clause had to do with Facebook monetization. Prior to signing on with Daily Wire, Candace had already been demonetized from Facebook. So she wanted that clause removed, and it was. But then, what about the other clauses? This is relating to YouTube's demonetization, or strikes from YouTube, or deplatforming from YouTube, or other sites. It's my opinion that those clauses are still in her contract. Though not totally concrete because we can't see the contracts that Candace signed or the contracts that other creators signed. The evidence is enough to convince me that these clauses are common practice at the Daily Wire, that they do, at the very least, present them to possible content creators, and I would hazard a guess are in the contracts of multiple content creators at Daily Wire. So it's not obvious that these contracts could be easily negotiated out of the contract, and proves a lie that these clauses were specific to Crowder. Second argument, it was all about the Benjamins. StevenCrowder wanted so much money, and when he didn't get it, he was enraged. Jeremy Boring, in his video, probably the third or fourth sentence, actually hints at the fact that this is not true. When talking about negotiating at first with StevenCrowder's representation, he said they, from the beginning, presented a number to him, saying this is the number we need to get to for us to consider this. Jeremy then says that he presented a different number, and I would hazard to guess a much lower number. Now, people might think that StevenCrowder isn't worth that amount of money. And maybe you're right. Only time will tell. But what is undeniable is the fact that StevenCrowder is positioned to demand whatever number he wants. He does have the following to go out on his own, and I'm sure he has the income, the wealth, to set up his own platform. So, though it's possible that he was enraged that they couldn't meet him on his number, just that the situation was more of StevenCrowder being annoyed about being tied to the Blaze for years. That relationship obviously didn't end on a very good note. And if he was going to tie himself to another platform that wasn't his own, he would want the number to be extraordinary, which is his right, whether it proves to be the right decision or not. And I haven't seen any evidence presented by anyone that he's extraordinarily upset that he didn't get that contract. A quick note about the numbers. I've seen a lot of numbers suggested about what was being demanded. It was in the low 100,000s, then it was like 120,000, 150,000. Maybe by Sunday it will be 200,000. But if someone is constantly changing their story and making it more extreme, I would assume to draw more emotion, I wouldn't trust those people, personally. Second argument, it's only about the Benjamins. Possible, maybe, but in my opinion, highly unlikely. Third argument, he planned this from the start. 2 points have been made to back this up. One is the timeline from the creation of StevenCrowder's Stop Big Con website, which was created, I believe, in mid-December, along with the audio recorded phone call made by StevenCrowder to Jeremy Boring. According to Candace Owens, this happened a week ago. Now, I don't know about you, but when I'm planning a vacation, maybe hiking through Spain, I don't plan anything. Why plan? I said I'm going to do it, so it's just going to happen because I said it. I don't have to do anything to achieve it. This is a ridiculous argument. Generally speaking in life, when you want to do something, you should probably plan it. Otherwise, it has a high likelihood of not getting done. Crowder definitely planned to call out big con media corporations, specifically with this dailywire. He planned it. And that's a very good thing to do, especially when he's wading into such dangerous waters. Third argument, I think ridiculous. Fourth argument, also having to do with the phone call. He's a bad friend. Now, some friends you can have, and they can do some pretty bad things. They can even kill someone, and you're still going to be a friend to them. Other friends, they say they don't like a sports team that you root for, and they're dead to you forever. So there's a question about how good a friend they were. In fact, I've only heard Jeremy say that they were friends. I haven't seen Crowder say they were friends. Crowder still might have been friends with Jeremy Boring, but I haven't seen any evidence of that. If your friend does something that's really bad, and in my opinion, this is really bad, then you need to stop being their friend. To call them out, even to the point of recording them in their own words saying something that, again, in my opinion, is reprehensible. Put that aside. Starting from the first video Crowder made, he never called out dailywire. In fact, he went to some effort to hide the fact of who it might be, saying something along the lines of, I know you all have theories and you think it might be this or that, but there's a lot of players in this game and you really can't be sure who it is. Giving dailywire cover. It was dailywire through their possible censorship of Jordan Peterson. Again, maybe Jordan Peterson took down his tweet because he didn't want to get involved with all this drama, which is fair enough. He's friends with both sides. and he just wants to quit the whole situation. Or it's possible they asked him to take it down, and maybe there was an edge to that ask a little bit. We don't know. Maybe we'll never know. But taking down that tweet, which was in support of Crowder's video, made it pretty obvious who was the subject of the video. And if that wasn't enough, Jeremy Boring then proceeded to do his response video, making it entirely clear. So can you say that StevenCrowder wasn't being a good friend? Maybe he was trying to be the best friend that he could be, but once the response was made, in my opinion, a disingenuous response, Crowder felt forced to act. In my opinion, Crowder was a lot nicer than I would have been, and a much better friend. Speaking on character, I watched both videos that Crowder did in completion, and taking the opportunity to speak of people at the Daily Wire, he spoke of Andrew Klavan as a most gracious person and one of the best people he has ever met. He spoke of Jordan Peterson as a friend and as someone that he would go to the wall for. He said Ben Shapiro is the smartest person I've ever met, and then declined to speak about anyone else. Though in my opinion, he had cause to do so in the most harshest terms. Candace Owens called him pathetic and a baby. Matt Walsh is taking time away from his newborn twins to write long tweet threads saying how awful he is and how he doesn't understand business. Despite these attacks, he's taken the high road. So if you judge people on character, there's your evidence. What is the aftermath of this? A lot of people on Twitter and other social media are just upset that there's conflict in the movement. They think we should all just get along. This reminds me of the recent election of the Speaker of the House. Republicans going into this election thought they had it in the bag, thought it was going to be a red tide, a red wave, a red tsunami. It went up and up and up. To be a red drizzle. Not getting the Senate, but narrowly getting the House. Kevin McCarthy thought he had the speakership in the bag. But when it turned out that he didn't have it in the bag, he realized that there was at least 20 odd members of the House that were going to drive a hard bargain. These negotiations went on behind the scenes up until the speaker vote. A lot of people in the mainstream Republican movement thought no one was going to oppose McCarthy. They didn't want the embarrassment that the media would subject them to, the ridicule. But the members, including Matt Gaetz and others, held the line. And what was the reaction from Ben Shapiro? He said, I don't even know what they want. Have they provided any demands? This seems like a PR stunt. Establishment Republicans pointed to the left-wing media and said, they're making fun of us. We have to vote for McCarthy and show them that we can rule. But the 20 Republicans held the line. And despite what Ben Shapiro said, either out of ignorance or malice, did have demands. And vote after vote came without Kevin McCarthy becoming speaker until those demands were met. These demands being met were not only good for the right-wing movement, they were good for members in general in the House. These 20 or so members being praised even by left-wing commentators like Jimmy Dore and Glenn Greenwald and left-wing politicians like Ilhan Omar. Ben Shapiro never acknowledged that what he said was untrue. But what he did say at the time was for the support of the establishment Republican faction. Takeaway from this, we have fundamental disagreements on how this country should be run, how the world should be run. disagreements on foreign engagements, disagreements on debt, on the centralization of power, on the deep state. And those that care about these issues can make a difference if they call out the other side. So I hope Daily Wire will come forth and say, we're sorry, we fucked up, and we're gonna do better, and we're gonna prove to you with transparency that we are doing better. But if Daily Wire has to burn to the ground, and Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boring have to resort to begging on the street for spare change from passerbys, it will be to the benefit for the conservative movement. I don't even like StevenCrowder all that much. Maybe in small doses. I was a big Ben Shapiro fan, and now I can't watch his show. I can't subscribe to anything the Daily Wire does. Even though some of their contributors took the high road, stayed out of it, and didn't throw bombs or sling out insults. And on top of that, I have to now religiously consume StevenCrowder content, who I find abrasive and a little annoying. But I'll do it anyways. Because fuck the state, fuck the neocons, fuck everyone. We're taking over this party whether they like it or not.